morning, Mark Wharton here, Stormwater Professionals Group, and this is our segment called What Were They Thinking? Now, what we're doing here is we're just taking a look at some detention ponds and some other stormwater quality features just to see, to be better at design and engineering, and as well better at building these ponds. Detention ponds specifically, stormwater quality ponds are required to be inspected on a regular basis and permitted annually, so it's that much more important that these things be maintained well and taken care of. So this is actually a recap. We looked at this pond a couple months ago, and what I want to show you here is how much worse it's gotten since. So when we last looked at it, and you'll have an opportunity to see that here, but since we last looked at it, this pond has been mowed, and it's now getting into the summertime season, and you can see how terrible things really have gotten here. Take a look at this here, and we can show that that this is really pretty bad right here. Pretty bad. So you can kind of see this, the rilling here. Most of the sediment is down at the bottom of the pond, as you can see here, and it's all moving toward the outfall structure, which is actually over here. You can see over here, here's the outfall structure. This is the trash screen. This is a pretty standard stormwater quality feature. But you can see what the problem is as we looked at it last time. I'm going to pan out a little bit here. You can see we're starting to grow cattails. So this is, I believe in my last video, we talked about that. What we saw at the time was not cattails. We saw a bunch of algae, and you can see that in the bottom here. If you look at these crackled, they look kind of crackled on the bottom. Yeah, you can see that right there. So that is evidence of some standing water with a lot of algae kind of growing there, and as it dries, it kind of crackles and does that sort of thing. So now, back to the actual condition of the pond, you can see that we're now growing cattails because all that silt and sediment and sand has been moving toward this outfall here. This is the exit point for all the water. You can see here that we have a buildup. Water is not flowing this way. Water is actually stopping and backing up and creating these cattail issues that we've seen. So let's take a look there on the slopes and show you the slopes and how bad they are. By the way, this whole thing, here I'm gonna take you over to show you the rest of the pond. I mean, look at these slopes. They're a freaking mess, right? Just a total mess. I'm gonna go down in the bottom of the pond now so you can really see kind of what that looks like from a top-down view. I mean, from a bottom-up view, sorry. Again, more of this crackling, nasty looking. This is all old algae. You can see it here. This is just algae, a little bit of dirt on it. And that's what we're looking at here. Now these cattails, the problem with these cattails, anybody that's ever dealt with cattails knows that these things are really hard to kill once they start. So let me take a look at this one before I show you this cattail here. Oh, I messed my camera up here. I'll show you this cattail here. See, the stalk comes out, but look what's still there. We'll grow a new cattail here within days. There'll be a cattail here in a couple days. So you can see, again, I can't really, it's very difficult to pull these out. So let's take a look now, show you the slopes. The slopes are pretty terrible. Bottom is terrible. Now, the cause of all this is really in the execution. Whoever did this work, whoever did this grading work did a terrible job. They didn't stabilize it properly. You can see that the grass that was here is now just all dead. Any grass that was here is pretty much gone. And now this pond is really left to its own devices and, you know, essentially become a dirt hole in the ground that, you know, serves no purpose for stormwater quality wise, really. Another issue that I'm seeing here as I'm walking around the pond, you can see that this area here, the idea was a little bit of slope concrete, But once you flow that water comes out of this pipe here and hits that pad, kind of a splash pad, but then falls right off the edge and creates all this rilling. So this would need to be addressed as well. This is improper design. This would need some riprap on the end of there, or a longer concrete pad to dissipate that flow. We'll keep moving on. Take a look more at the slopes. They're terrible, as you can see. And then we've got a similar problem over here, actually, on this outfall structure. I mean, on this inlet structure, we got the same issue going on here. So this will need repair as well. You can see the problem is that there's no riprap there, and there's just not enough long enough dissipation pad. You can actually kind of see how that water starts to dissipate the minute it exits the pipe and starts to flow out to the right and left, as evidenced by the sand on the right and left there, and the flume. It looks like a triangle kind of shape, right? Like it's paid out a little bit. If you just extended this concrete a little bit more, it might actually do the trick. But at this point, you really have no choice but to add some riprap or a flexible mat pad would be my advice. But yeah, you can do any of a number of different things to repair that. Now, the only wall of the pond that looks, I'm going to say halfway decent, is this one. And it really doesn't look halfway decent. The only reason I'm saying that is because it has some vegetation on it. But all in all, you can see that it's falling apart pretty quickly too, and it probably won't last the summer. There's really no there's no organic material on this slope, so it's hard to keep anything alive, and nobody's fertilizing this. Now let me show you one other thing before we exit, and that's this area over here. You can see how wet this is. I'm going to step in this to show you kind of how wet, soggy this is. See how soggy it is? See, I can put some footprints in there. You can see I'm kind of smushed up in there. Yeah, it's pretty soggy. So, fortunately it hasn't rained lately, but even without a lot of rain, just being soggy, those cattails, they can take hold. Once they do, very difficult to get rid of. So that's the recap on this one. It's not getting better. It's actually getting much worse than the last time we saw it. But this is the way it goes when you hire cheap labor and cheap out on kind of the stabilization aspects. And the problem really is we're in Houston, where you dig down a foot or two into the ground and you've got nothing left but sand and silt and clay, and that's what we're seeing here. So you really should add some organics to the slopes of the detention pond and give you a fighting chance at stabilization. And so here we can see that our trash screen, interestingly enough, is relatively void of any silt and sediment. It's not even making it that far. It's all kind of piling up back here behind it. And you can kind of see this flowage that we were getting as well down here from this from that pipe. Flows down this way, and really it's just kind of creating a trench, not even getting into this area. It looks to me like what's really happening is this water is flowing from that pipe. It's coming down this way. It's not even getting to the outfall structure. It's just bypassing it, and it's flowing on down into the bottom of the pond with the cattails. So that's it. That's what we've got here. I hope you learned something from this. And again, it's another segment of What Were They Thinking with Mark Wharton.